Picture this, a group of the world's most powerful political leaders gathered together eating your scraps. Sound ridiculous? Well, according to the US News and World Report, in November 2015, this became a reality. You see, these political leaders gathered together to discuss the issue of food waste. And to go along with this discussion, the chefs were told to prepare a meal that was made entirely of waste and scraps that would otherwise go to a landfill. See, the chefs made veggie burgers made out of pulped vegetables, which are vegetables that are already juiced and used for like smoothies and drinks. And usually they go to landfills, but instead they made these into veggie burgers. And French fries were actually made out of these like byproducts of the cornstarch. And I heard they were very good, according to these political leaders. Anyway, so the impending issue of food waste is a huge problem that's plaguing our society, and it's plaguing our economy and our environment. Food waste is basically food that goes unconsumed. And it can be from anywhere from in the calf, you throw away the food that you don't want, to agricultural producers throwing away food that's maybe too large or too small to be sold. And it's a really big issue that is not commonly addressed. Food waste as a social issue. So food waste is extremely important because according to Feeding America, anywhere between 25 and 40% of all food produced goes uneaten by anyone. And this is often due to quality standards being overemphasized, for example, the aesthetic appearance, to people just saying, I don't want that, to people letting vegetables rot in the back of the refrigerator because, well, they were just saving that for later. And it is a really major problem that a lot of people just like sort of don't really get. Put this into perspective, 2 rotten tomatoes equates 13 gallons of wasted water. And according to the U.S. Food and Agriculture Organization, otherwise known as FAO, every 3.6 seconds, somebody around the world dies because of malnourishment and hunger. 75%, 3/4 of these people, are children. And there is a study conducted also by the FAO that says that 925 million people around the world are undernourished. This is ridiculous because we produce enough food as a human society in order to be able to feed everybody together. But it's just not well distributed. And if we save just 1/4 of all the food that we've wasted, we would be able to save 870 million people a year. Food waste is also a major economic issue because it is a detriment to many different economies. So the EU, which is the European Union, started to take note of this issue. And the EU has a commission that now takes stats on the effects of food waste on their society. And what they found was that 143 billion euros every single year are wasted on agriculture and produce that is never actually eaten. This in total could feed 200 million individuals. And I found the Chinese also were taking note of all the food that was wasted. And there's a group called Collective Responsibility, which goes out and takes stats. It is an NGO, and there's a large group and section in China. And what they do is they just go out and they take surveys, they look at different stats, and they basically put together summaries and conclusions to give to political leaders. And what they found was that the middleman basically is the man that transports the food, buys and sells the food. He's the one that loses out in this whole problem of food waste. Also, the farmers that produce food are the ones that end up losing out because they can't sell their food. They make too much, they make not enough, the food is not aesthetically pleasing. They end up losing their businesses and their jobs, and basically the economy goes down. Now, if we look up here we show this graph shows the per capita food loss worldwide in kilograms per year. So the blue right here is basically all the food that is lost in sort of the production side. So that this is like restaurants that maybe serve food that is not always eaten, the excess food. This is food that also doesn't meet certain standards. That's what that is. And the red shows the consumer waste. So that's us. Basically everything that we throw away unnecessarily. And if you see, North America and Oceania has one of the highest rates, which is basically us, next to Europe. So this is an issue that we are always constantly contributing to. Now, food waste also an environmental issue. And Deep Waters conducted a study that proved that 21% of fresh water is sort of put to food that is always going to be wasted. So every year, 21% of our fresh water in the United States is used to grow food that is going to waste. And if you see California's in a drought, or if you've heard, California's been in a drought, and we're sort of trying to save water with taking quicker showers, when 21% of this water is just being wasted every single year. And New York Times, sort of in collaboration with the United Nations, also conducted a study that found that a third of greenhouse gases are actually a result of agriculture. That a lot of people actually know. But what they don't know is that 7% of all greenhouse gases come from food waste. How? Methane. That's the answer. So landfills basically are large areas where trash goes. Now when food accumulates in such large amounts, methane production skyrockets. And it is a very powerful and dangerous greenhouse gas that is a concern to a lot of individuals. And landfills, they just keep getting bigger. That's the problem. That they're not getting any smaller. We just keep adding and adding more waste in terms of food that could be saved and used in other ways. We just keep adding it to landfills, and this problem just keeps snowballing. So, after all this depressing news, what can we do? Well, one thing we can do is we can compost. Many of you maybe already compost or know how to compost. Basically, you take organic matter, waste products maybe in your home, stuff you didn't need, something rotten. You put it in your backyard, or some people actually keep it in the house. And you let the detritivores, which are basically organisms that break down food, you let them break it down for you and turn it into fertilizer so you can put it back into the earth. Easy, right? And then wholesale recovery markets. Now, according to Fast Forward, which is a group that works towards implementing as many wholesale recovery markets as possible, they found that wholesale recovery markets are actually really helping to lower the amount of food waste that is produced every year. So what are they? Basically, they are markets, like regular farmers markets, who at the end of every day truck all the food that is not sold and can no longer be sold, and they take it to different hunger relief centers around the state every single night. So basically all this food that would go to waste or go to a landfill in turn gets reused somewhere else. Another solution is just to eat your food. Basically, this means that you shouldn't try to buy more than you can eat. A lot of times this is a problem in America because portions are so large. But when you do provide your own food and cook your own food, try to cook as much food as you can eat, or 2 or 3 people, as much as you all can eat together. And actually, this week is Pepperdine's Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. So if you would like convocation credit, which I know many of you do, tomorrow, November 15th, in the PC in room 188 at 7 p.m., there's a showing of the documentary Just Eat It, which addresses the issue of food waste. I encourage all of you to be able to go there because it's going to be very informational. They have a lot of information on what you can do besides what I have said today. For example, there are petitions, programs, and pledges that basically you pledge, oh, I'm not going to waste this much food. It's a way to really just get involved, and there are other ways you can get involved. For example, you can volunteer at hunger relief centers, moving food back and forth. There are lots of opportunities that you can take advantage of to be able to help address this issue and really show your concern for it. Now, because it's such a big issue, this is going to be affecting us for a very long time. It affects our society, our economy, and it affects our environment. And I really encourage all of you to take this to heart and really just decide to sort of eat what you have and not overbuy, I guess. Yeah, I guess overbuy. And honestly, just remember that to save the world, we must first save our food. Thank you.